Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes. How you doing? How's everybody doing today? We're recording this on August the 4th, 2022, and look, straight off, right off the bat, thank you very much for being here, or for letting me be there. That's more appropriate. It's not as if, I'm not doing actual TV broadcasting here. So it actually, thank you for letting me into your ears or your eyeballs or both at the same time, which is a weird thing to say, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We're going to be talking about professional wrestling here, as we usually do here on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. But first, let's just get this out of the way. If this is your first time watching this on YouTube on demand, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Consider subscribing. Then you'll get, all the notifications you want. You'll never miss out anything that I put out here, especially these days. I'm doing some G1 Climax 32 coverage, the big New Japan tournament, right? So you'll be getting that on top of it. You make sure you don't miss a single thing. So I appreciate that. You can also like this video. Liking the video helps out a great deal, helps YouTube. It helps my stuff get pushed a little higher in YouTube. And I can't say I don't like that. I like it a lot. Thank you very much. It's really easy ways to show some support. And you can also leave a comment below. Look, I talk about tonight, for instance, Triple H and being in control of creative. And we saw the SummerSlam. We saw this first Raw that he put up. What do you think so far? Have you seen any noticeable differences? Tell me what you feel about Triple H and his role in creative so far. All Out is coming up. There's nothing really announced so far for AEW. Do you guys see some things coming up? Leave comments below. I love talking about wrestling. I promise I will respond. We'll have a conversation. We'll chit chat about wrestling. It'll be a good time. So go ahead and do it right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. And I appreciate it. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast app, thank you very much. The podcast feeds are fantastic. You guys are coming out in bigger and bigger numbers every week, and I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me be a part of your podcast rotation, because God, there's so many out there. I really do feel privileged, and I don't want to come across as being, facetious or anything. I sincerely appreciate you allowing me to regale your brain with wrestling thoughts from my brain to yours. But I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. And if you can, leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a 5-star rating on Spotify, that stuff helps out a great deal. And I really, really appreciate it. So thank you all very much for your support, for listening. We got a stacked show tonight. Trust me. We're recapping the SummerSlam. I'm going to talk about Triple H in the first Raw and all this stuff and his takes on history of wrestling. I'm going to talk about Ric Flair's last match, the AEW Dynamite as well. Look, we're covering a lot of stuff. And I'm also going to be doing some overtime. Going to be doing a Going Broadway segment for members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel only. So if you're not a member right now, consider becoming a member. And you can pop into the exclusive extra thoughts, extra content from the Mr. Warren Hayes Show for members only. So there you go. I think I've covered everything. Pew, pew. Thank you for being here. Let's get to it. First thing we're going to do tonight is say something nice about Bill Goldberg.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
That Andrade is a stinker. I don't know if you guys knew this. I don't know why Andrade doesn't want to start a faction with Bill Goldberg. After all, Bill's only demand is that they call it Los Ingobernables.
Warren Hayes has 52 nice things to say about Goldberg.
We're doing great. You know what? I think we are going to jump right in. It's going to be a mishmash. So let's just go ahead and call this the weekly wrestling inspection. How about that? Let's kick things off by talking about the SummerSlam, the 2022 SummerSlam edition of WWE's greatest party of the summer. What is it that they call it? The biggest party of the year, the sweetest fun times you will have today. The SummerSlam. There are a lot of people out there who are extremely high on this show, and I think there's reasons to be. I myself, ended up, upon reflection, upon thinking about it, upon getting some distance away from it, I thought this was a very, very average show, which people will remember for one thing. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I didn't even mention it, and you're like, I don't know what Warren's talking about. Hopefully no one out there has a voice like that. If you do, I'm sorry, I did not want to make fun of you. Just, sometimes I'm like, it's plausible. Like, it's more plausible to believe that there's someone who would ever, just have this weird inflection as opposed to, it's plausible. And if you I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, make fun of you specifically. It's more like, look, let's move on. Yeah, see, the thing, I think there's some things that happened that were memorable, but had very little to do with the overall quality of the show, which I didn't think was all that great. I didn't think it was all that great a show. Let's break it down a little bit here. Let's go match by match. First match of the evening that we had, of course, when things go wrong, what do? You pull the trigger and you call upon the women to save the day, right? You want a hot opener. You want to get people invested in it. What do? You get the women. You put them in charge, and they'll lead us to a proper destination. Bianca Belair successfully retained her WWE Raw Women's Championship against Becky Lynch in a match which I liked, but I did not love. I didn't enjoy as much as their WrestleMania match. I think their match here at the SummerSlam was fine. I thought it was good, but I wasn't in love with it. And I at some point I'm looking at Becky, and was this in partly due to the fact that at some point Becky hurt her shoulder? She separated her shoulder on a move, and she was working injured. That could factor in. Of course, it can absolutely factor in. But nonetheless, I was looking at the match, and I felt Becky was trying a lot of stuff out. And I mean that in a good way. Like, I really feel like has she been watching tape? Has she been watching All Japan tape? Because there's leg drops that she was trying out. I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is some new stuff coming from the arsenal of Becky Lynch. And she had me going. I was like, all right, this is interesting. I was a captive audience for this match. And what more really do you want? Well, you want me to get really excited. That's what you want. Ultimately, you want me to get really, really excited for your match. But I was roped in. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Like I said, didn't love it, but I liked it. It was a more than competent opener. It was a good opener. It was a good call, especially with the big reveal that happened after, which was absolutely a Triple H signature event, where Bayley makes her return, flanked by recently released Dakota Kai, who came back, and Io Shirai coming back as well. Well, not coming back, but making her main roster debut. Now, this is absolute. This has Trips. This has his fingerprints. His fingerprints are all over this move. Don't even question. Go like,
I perhaps had some discussions with Bill Pritchard, and Bill Pritchard said, "Why don't we bring back Dakota Kai and she would be a good surprise return.
No. This has Trips written all over it. Triple H likes Dakota Kai, and a Dakota Kai who had clearly moved on, right? She was like, in her mind, when she was gone from WWE, she was ready to move on elsewhere. And she's a good wrestler. She's good. She is a good pro wrestler. So she would have ended up anywhere being a prize. And Triple H is like, nah, I'm back. I'm the head of talent. I'm getting my people back. These are the people that I invested time, effort, money in, that I believe in. This is a huge vote of confidence for Dakota Kai. Where Vince didn't like her. Vince didn't like her. She did a couple of, don't you remember? She did some dark matches a few months ago against Aaliyah. They called up Aaliyah. That's who Vince wanted up on SmackDown. Aaliyah. And Io Shirai, look, I don't have to sit here and convince you that Io Shirai is one of the best wrestlers in the world, because we already know this. And I am convinced, and she hadn't been fired, she was not released, but the rumor going around is that she was out the door. Her contract was coming up, and she was like, put me on main or I'm out of here. That was the rumor going around. Convinced that if this timing had not happened the way it did, with Vince being forced out, and if Vince being forced out, and Triple H, if Vince hadn't been forced out and Triple H hadn't been put in power, right? If that hadn't happened, she would have probably slipped between their fingers. But now she's up on main, and she's got her new name, Io Sky. And now everyone's like, oh, well, it's not so bad. It actually fits her. It doesn't, though. It doesn't. It's Io Shirai. You know, there's a difference between bringing up Anthony Henry and calling him Asher Hale. Wasn't that was his name? Anthony Henry, as talented as a wrestler that he is, he doesn't really have, a legacy, right? Io Shirai does. That's the thing. And personally, it bothers me that they changed her name. Is it because we're all too stupid to pronounce it properly? Is that the problem? That it sounds too foreign? Why? Why would we change the name? Oh, it's not so bad, Warren. Who cares? I don't think it, even if it's not so bad, I don't like it. There was no reason to do it. This is a wrestler who arrived with a legacy, like I said. Fans internationally. Why change the name? It's not that big a deal. Sometimes it kind of is. Sometimes it kind of is. I don't like it. And I don't know if it's a question of people going a little soft and it's like, oh, but Trips knows what he's doing. We're off to a very bad start. I don't know. She has a legacy. People know who she is. Point is that she's on main, and I think that's look, yes, that is a net plus. That is a net positive that she's on main right now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to sit here and say, go boo-boo face. And it is absolutely a top tier solution here. This is good. And I like the surprise. And I like that Becky Lynch then stepped up next to Bianca, because the three women together were threatening Bianca. But Becky was like, nah, man. And then now we're leaning back into Becky Lynch being a babyface again. Something that should have been happening from the get-go. This is something that should have been there from the start. We shouldn't have had to waddle through this big-time Bex thing. I'm glad everyone loved the outfits, because it is still a poor decision on WWE's part. Bringing Becky Lynch back, arguably your biggest babyface in your company. Bringing her back, people excited to see her, but nope. We're gonna make her a face for the better part of a year. Heel, excuse me. We're gonna make her a heel for the better part of a year. Despite the fact that people want to cheer her. It's just gonna make him want to cheer her more. Yeah, but see, this is the thing. You think it's going to make people want to cheer her more, but people have been wanting to cheer her, period. And they have been. And they shouldn't be waiting for WWE to give the permission. And WWE, if it had any common sense, from the get-go, would not have brought Becky Lynch back as a heel. It's still a dumb decision. What did heel Becky Lynch do to make the company better? How did that improve the women's division? How did it do ratings wise? Did Becky suddenly become this huge? I'm putting that up there with the Steve Austin heel turn. Nobody wanted it. It had no returns. Just muddled the waters. Made the character even a little less interesting. Started getting interesting once people started talking about her outfits. And that's in the tail end of this big time Beck stuff. So weird. But fun little match to start things off. If we come back to talk about the SummerSlam. Fun little match to start things off. We have a surprise return. Multiple surprise returns. Good stuff. And yes, as I said, that had Triple H fingerprints. Absolutely 100%. Undeniable. Next match, we had Logan Paul defeating The Miz. Did Logan Paul go above and beyond? Did this match over-deliver? Absolutely. There's no denying that what he was doing was impressive for a guy who's never wrestled. He's very athletic, and he does it well. He's supposed to be the babyface. I still didn't buy it, because he's not. He is a natural asshole. But like I posited last week, in the preview, when I was doing the preview, which I think I did for members, right? I think it's up on the... I said to myself, of course a guy like Vince McMahon would look at a guy like Logan Paul and say, yeah, you're great. You're the good guy here. Self-made, does his own shit, doesn't take any guff from anyone, or fuck him, kind of attitude. And he's like, yeah, that's the baby face here, but he's not, because Vince is completely disconnected from anything. So after the match, one of the notable things for me is that after the match, Logan Paul is in the ring, he's celebrating, and he looks like at people in the front row, and he mouths at them. He says, "I told you so." I'm like, baby faces don't do that. Go turn to the audience and say, "I told you so." I know what he meant, because there were people who were doubting what he was capable of doing. The frog splash spot was fantastic. Absolutely. Now, where I want to pull back and have a little reservation is when I see people absolutely losing their minds over him doing wrestling things because he's not a wrestler. Whereas, we see people pulling moonsaults and, doing leapfrogs and stuff like that, and we're like, this is par for the course. Like every other wrestler watching this, like I watched the Logan Paul match, and while it is impressive that he is at pulling this shit off with such little training, which kind of implicates that there's something natural about it that comes to him. He did a wrestling match and he did wrestling moves. He did one crazy spot, which I'm completely with you. Frog splash off the top through the table. Not everyone does that. That's good shit. But other than that, I saw a wrestling match. So I'm not going to lose my mind over Logan Paul is the next greatest thing ever. Logan Paul did a bunch of shit that I've seen AJ Styles do. I've seen Finn Balor do, Mustafa Ali, bunch of guys on the roster. But for some reason, I have to sit here and praise what he did because he's not a wrestler. Isn't that dichotomy is very weird to me. It's very, very strange. I will give him praise on the fact that he worked his ass off in this match. But I'm not going to go overboard. I'm going to say this was a strong wrestling match that was even more impressive due to the fact that the gentleman, one of the two components of this match, was only at his second professional wrestling match in his entire career. So absolutely, but like I'm staying grounded. I'm staying realistic to this. And what's the next move? Logan Paul was not on Raw. When's the next time are we going to see this guy? What's the next step? Is he on a part-time deal? What's his thing? I don't know what I don't know what the next steps are. I really don't. WWE United States title was successfully defended by the champion Bobby Lashley, defeating Theory. I was reading a report this week. I think it's Dave that talked about it, that he was hearing rumblings that certain wrestlers were afraid for their spot now that Vince is gone. Yeah, I think we all know who we're talking about here. Is this guy's been geeked out. Completely geeked out. Theory is. And I think I'll talk about him now because we have other shit to talk about once we get to the main event. But not only did Austin Theory get bitched out on Raw, the Raw before SmackDown, and kind of sort of stood tall on SmackDown, sort of kind of, but fought Bobby Lashley again, who defeated him for his championship at Money in the Bank. Theory lost this match under 5 minutes, and then later was unable to fully cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase because he got geeked out by Brock and Roman. Completely. And this guy who's been being pushed down our throats for months wasn't even on Raw on Monday. No follow-up on the briefcase, no nothing. He's been geeked out. He's done. He's done. How is anyone supposed to take him seriously? Who cares? And, if anything, I don't want to overanalyze what's going on here because maybe this was the plan for him pre-SummerSlam, right? I don't know. I don't want to, I'm not going to dive too hard into this. But I don't know how far we're ready to go with him. Completely geeked out? Oh, he had family issues on Monday. Well, look, the point still stands in regards to SummerSlam. Excuse me, the SummerSlam. He looked like a buffoon, like a complete fool. When he lost the match against Bobby Lashley, which was a given, right? I was like, all right, I had hedged my bets. I'm like, okay, he's walking away. He's cashing in and he's walking away with the titles just to piss everyone off. I don't know. I'm not stoked for this guy. I don't see look, I see a very limited ceiling. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, this match was a nothing match. And if anything, here's the thing, here's the deal. Why isn't Bobby Lashley the guy again? Because look at the dude. They have him stand on a pedestal. They have fireworks shooting around him. The guy is jacked. He's in his mid-40s. He doesn't even look to be in his mid-40s, and he can work better than guys on the roster right now. The guy's I don't understand why Lashley is not constantly in the conversation when it comes to top tier talent in that company. I don't get it. You guys know how I felt about his push 18 months ago, 2 years at this point, when they were pushing him hard as a U.S. champion and he was just defeating everyone. You know, a proper push where the guy goes through the mid-card, loses his mid-card belt, and then he's like, well, I have to go, I'm going up to the world title now because I've defeated everyone else. And that's how you push a guy. That's how you elevate a guy. And now he's like back to the mid-card. I don't understand a single thing. His booking was pristine, which is something rare in this company. He had a stable, he had dudes with him. I don't get it. We had a no disqualification tag team match where the Mysterios defeated the Judgment Day team of Damian Priest and Finn Balor. And you know what? If we hadn't been told like multiple times that this was a no disqualifications match, I wouldn't have ever known. Why do people still do tag in and tag out during a no disqualification match? The referee can't say a thing. It's no DQ. What is she going to do? Disqualify you? She can't. Why isn't everyone fighting everywhere all the time? It's a no DQ match. I'm like, what am I looking at? This was boring. It was so paint by numbers for a no DQ match. And one, which I'm assuming is supposed to be like some sort of feel-good moment for Ray for his 2 decades in wrestling, part of his celebration, the month of Mysterio is what they're calling it. There was nothing here. There was absolutely nothing here. Mailed in just your run-of-the-mill Raw tag team match, which was supposed to be no DQ and was no DQ right until they started bringing in a chair, or Rhea Ripley started getting involved. I don't remember. I don't even remember. And why would anyone remember this card outside of The Thing? There's nothing eventful that happened. Pat McAfee defeated Happy Corbin. And again, I'm like, look, I'll say that I've said it once, I'll say it a million times, and I will continue saying it. There is no one in WWE who loves the WWE product more than Pat McAfee. That I am 100% convinced. And he's a guy who loves pro wrestling. He's always loved pro wrestling. So when he started his programs with Adam Cole in NXT, it's shown. Everything he did just dripped with conviction and love for the business. You could tell he loved it. So we can continue doing that way too, you know? This match with Corbin was flat, just completely flat. And am I supposed to get excited again at a non-wrestler doing wrestler things? He picked it up so fast. Sure he did. But now we've got two guys who picked it up so fast. Meanwhile, on the roster, you've got guys who've been doing this all their life. Does that mean that I have to be less excited? Is it less exciting for me when Rey Mysterio does a 619 because he's been doing 619s for a long time now? Or can I still get excited about it? I don't know. But again, a very flat, ordinary match. This is SummerSlam. And we're getting ordinary matches. The unified Raw and SmackDown tag team titles were on the line. Champions the Usos successfully retained their titles by defeating the Street Profits again, with special guest referee Jeff Jarrett, who was there for, look, I tweeted out after the match, why was Jeff Jarrett there for? The only reason anyone could come up with is like, well, hometown. Okay. But he added nothing. He added absolutely nothing to the match. What were we even doing? I don't know why he was there. Well, hometown. So what? He added nothing to the match. There was nothing that he did that added any kind of intrigue or drama or something that'd be like, maybe he's going to go this way. Maybe. It was called straight down the middle, which is what he said, but which is also kind of boring if you make a big deal out of having a special guest referee. Like even Steve Austin stunnered the shit out of Goldberg and Brock Lesnar after the match. Not even a guitar shot, nothing. And frankly, I was of a clique of individuals, a group of people that didn't think their Money in the Bank match was as great as many people were purporting. I thought there was a long stretch in that match which was boring. And then things started to get alive when the near fall started happening. But I thought the majority of that match wasn't well worked. I turned to this match here. I think it was clearly, it was absolutely under the match that happened at Money in the Bank. And the Usos retain clean and just like, whoop, they hit the finisher and you're like, oh, we're done. Like the finish sort of came out of nowhere and you're like, oh. There's no second gear to this match. Okay, all right. Liv Morgan successfully defended the SmackDown Women's title against Ronda Rousey. We're going to have a conversation right now about Liv Morgan because WWE has effectively proven to me what I've been talking about, what I've been anticipating. They do not have faith. They do not have faith in Liv Morgan as a champion. I am still convinced, this is just a theory, right? That the call to have her become a champion at Money in the Bank was a last minute decision because they didn't have the nameplates ready. It took them 2 weeks to get the nameplates to Liv. And to me, that's a sign. That means they weren't ready for Liv champion. They weren't. And look at how she won the title. Sneaky move on Ronda. Kind of a heel move. Doesn't get a real victory win, right? So we move into Money in the Bank, into the SummerSlam, saying to ourselves, well, this is kind of it, right? This is the match that Liv is going to win and establish herself as champion. She's gonna be like, no, all the detractors, the boo-boo faces that people have when thinking about her win at Money in the Bank. No, now I'm going to beat Ronda 1, 2, 3 clean in the ring. That's what's going to happen. And that's not what happened. Worse than that, they went to a double victory situation where not even Liv looks good. No one looks good. If anything, Ronda is the one coming out of here looking, she outclassed her. Just as simple as that. And Liv got lucky. This is the story that they told. Under 5 minutes, mind you. Liv Morgan gets a bit of offense in, but outside of that, it's Ronda doing arm bars and stretches. That's all she does. Liv reaches the corner, the ropes. Ronda locks him in again. And then finally, in that position that they were, where Ronda has an arm bar on, her shoulders are on the mat, and Liv is tapping as the referee's counting 1, 2, 3. What do you think that exposes? That Liv Morgan is a chump. Not literally, in the booking, in how she's presented, in this victory. They don't have faith in her. They don't. And I know there's tons of Liv fans. Tons of them. And you probably don't want to hear this. But this is the reality of the situation. If WWE had faith in Liv Morgan as a strong champion, they would not have hesitated to put her over Ronda. But they did. And it's not even a question of, well, Ronda still looks strong and that was important. Not when you're a champion. Who are you supposed to be putting over strong? You're not supposed to be protecting the challenger when a champion is trying to defend the title. You make your champion look strong. You nimrods. What did she look like? She looked like she lost. That she got lucky again. If you don't believe what I'm telling you right now, go back and watch Big E's run, because we're pretty much close to what's going on here. And you know what? I think Liv is a very likable person. And I get that she has this strong connection with a fan base. I understand all of that. And I think it is easy to be able to just give back to the audience, simply. But it's like I often say, if you need to protect everyone in the match, don't book the fucking match. If you needed to protect Ronda, don't book the match. Have Liv go over anyone else at this point. Have her have a successful title defense against fucking Aaliyah. Have her have one against Shotzi. It's not as if you're doing really anything interesting with Shotzi, which boggles my mind, FYI. And I want to make it clear, this is not because I dislike Liv. She's not my favorite wrestler. I have my qualms about Liv Morgan, but I can appreciate her value. And what sucks here is that this championship that she has was created by her fan base. But no one in creative believes in it. You can tell by the result of that match. Now, Ronda's gone. She's been suspended for what, indefinite, for attacking the ref, right? Because Ronda's insane. That's what I gathered from that part of information. So she's gone for a while. What do you think is going to happen now? Well, Liv is going to have some soft defenses. Now she's going to have Aaliyah. Now she's going to have Shotzi. But then the minute Ronda comes back, she's dropping the title again. Or, I know there's a lot of people who are anticipating this one, and with bated breath, Charlotte Flair's going to come back at some point. Personally, I'm surprised that Liv still has the title, because I had predicted that they're taking it off of her against Ronda. But with the way that match finished, it is pretty much taking the title off of her. Because she is not a strong champion. She was not booked as a strong champion. Looks like a mess. She looks like someone who lucked out twice in a row. And if you cared about your champions, if you cared about your championships, you'd make your champions look strong. But they're not going to do it because they don't have faith in her. Here's something funny, though. Here's something very, very funny. Global news, if you're in Canada, you know what global news is. It's like, Global is a huge privately owned national network here in Canada. And Global News reported earlier today that about the Ronda Rousey suspension, and the person who wrote the article was like, well, we're not quite sure if this is true or not. And I'm like, let me try. I think, yes, okay, I have the quote right here. And it just blows my mind. On Monday, WWE released a brief statement informing fans of Rousey's suspension and fine for a quote-unquote undisclosed amount. Due to her suspension, Rousey will not appear on this week's Friday Night SmackDown, the company concluded. This is a major news outlet, okay? This is a major news outfit here, is Global News. The legitimacy of Rousey's attack and subsequent suspension is unclear. Often professional wrestling performers will pre-plan an event that will result in a suspension to take time off. It's widely known and accepted that WWE is scripted, the WWE is scripted, and this attack more than likely falls into that category. Why would you report it then? Why would you report it then? I can understand. DGMC says People Magazine is also running this story. To a degree, at least I understand People Magazine running it, because People Magazine is an entertainment rag, right? That's what they do. This is a news source. It's ridiculous. No one tell them that Vince once was in an exploding limousine. Never tell them that. Scott Hall, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat, and Alonzo Smith as well. Good to see you both. Let's move on to the main event. WWE Undisputed title was on the line. Roman Reigns successfully defended against Brock Lesnar once again. This is the match with the tractor that upheaved the ring. This is going to be part of WWE's video packages for Until Kingdom Come. Or until Roman gets fired or removed in disgrace or whatever. or Brock. I'm being stupid. It'd take, my point being is that it would take a lot for them to remove that from their video packages moving forward. Look, did I sit there in awe as they Brock brought the tractor and lifted the ring and lift. I'm like, yes. I was in complete silence. I was stunned. I was like, he isn't really going to do this. Is he really going to do this? And yes, he did do it. It's a hell of a visual. Especially with the rest of the match with the ring, all fucking lopsided. I was stunned. Did it help improve my enjoyment of the match? Not really. It's not something like this is the kind of stuff that WWE leans on, right? The moments, the events, these things. This is what the WWE fans love, actually. So, I mean, it's just wild to me that they did it, and it's a fantastic visual, and nobody got hurt on top of it all. This stunt was well executed. As for the match itself, I think it was better than what I anticipated. But there was a lot of stuff where I was like, dumping Roman out of the shovel from the tractor. I was that's not that high a bump. That's not that awesome. It's just, all right. You just wanted the visual, you got it, but I mean, you look at it and it's like, Brock keeps getting up and up and up. It was fine, I guess. It's like, there was nothing wrong with it. And you know what? Much better than their previous match. Much better than the WrestleMania match, which I thought stunk. Well, not stunk. Didn't think it was good. I honestly don't know what they're gonna do with Roman. I don't know who dethrones Roman. Cody. I think Cody's the only guy at this point, right? Who's gonna dethrone Roman? Maybe this was the plan for the SummerSlam right here. Before Cody got a pectoral hemorrhage or whatever it is. It left me very a little empty, I guess. Where I started, well, of course, WWE is gonna WWE. There's no other way to put it, really. They're just gonna WWE. And this was like Triple H's first show, right? Or at least, the first. Look, we don't know what was already planned, and what Triple H decided to leave in, and what he changed. Well, we know the ladies at first was a Triple H move. No one will convince me otherwise, unless Stephanie McMahon calls me right now. My phone's right here, Steph. Or texts me and says, Warren, Dakota Kai and Io Shirai was a Bruce Pritchard idea. And I will respond to her. If she texts me, I will respond to her with the Anchorman, I don't believe you gif. Unless someone actually tells me, no, this idea was not Tripp's. It was not H's idea. It was someone else. I'm like, all right. But until I get that confirmation, it's a Triple H move. The finish is a complete WWE move. It's a Vince move. And you see, this is the point where I'm like, this is not going to be. I'm not fully expecting Triple H to turn everything on its head. And we got the proof with that on Raw this week. Yes, I'm leading into the Raw stuff now. Raw this week posted its highest viewership since 2020. Second highest demo of the year. The August 1st edition of the show averaged 2.230 million people. What am I trying to do? 2,230,000 viewers. A 0.61 in the demo. That is a big fucking number for WWE in the year of our Lord 2022. The most watched, it was the most watched episode of Raw since March 16, 2020. When it was the first empty arena episode during the pandemic that featured Steve Austin appearing on the show and re-airing the men's Royal Rumble match for that year. Do you remember that absolute disaster of a show? I do. Because that was the 316 day nonsense, right? I mean, a lot of people tuned in to see the Triple H era starting, right? This is what everyone wanted. This, like, for real though, this is why people were tuning in. Of course, you always get the post pay-per-view bump. Want to see the fallout of, SummerSlam, so on and so forth. But there's also the, okay, Vince is gone. What are we doing now moving forward? Now, I watched most of it, and I was mostly interested in the matches. I didn't see much of a difference. I'm going to be completely upfront with you. And I know a lot of people were digging and were like, Michael Cole is saying, he said wrestler instead of sports entertainer. I don't know, but people were calling this out as if they were these big changes. But I'm like, the formula is the same. The presentation's exactly the same. We started with a promo. Sure, it was Becky Lynch saying, look, I have to go away for a while, but I'll be back. And when I come back, I'm the man. And I'm like, dope, let's fucking go. If you're going to start with a promo, you start with something with substance that's meaningful, right? I thought the triple threat match, the AJ Styles, Mustafa Ali, and Miz one was really fun. I enjoyed Ciampa and AJ Styles. I thought that was really good. I thought that was a really good Monday night match. And I was like, if Raw was always this good. I thought, setting us up a Bianca Belair Io Shirai match out of nowhere. That ends in a no contest. But you know. Like there was some unpredictability to it, but it wasn't a perfect show. Because a lot of the tropes of a Monday Night Raw were still there. Screwball endings like the no contest for the Io Bianca match. Still lots of promos, lots of talks, even though there was a lot more wrestling. And pushing people that people want to see. Giving Ciampa, some shine, some glow here. It's a big deal. Becky being a face again, okay, Edge. But I did not see this overhaul that I feel like a lot of people saw or people want to see. I think there's a lot of WWE fans who are legitimately excited at the prospect of something feeling fresh, something feeling new. And I can get behind that. And I completely understand it. But I'm definitely not ready to get on my knees and kiss the floor and say Triple H is our savior. He's going to make everything better. Because I've not seen it. I haven't seen meaningful change in the way Raw was set up. I saw good matches, which I'm kind of like, should we be patting everyone on the back for having good wrestling matches on a wrestling show? Like, isn't that kind of like what we expect? I don't know. Like, I don't want to be overly sour, but I've been burned by WWE before. I don't see why this is going to change. And people were like, there's less camera cuts. And I'm like, in the the Asuka Alexa Bliss match, I saw Asuka doing her back fists, and there were like 4 or 5 camera cuts in there. There's not less. There's nothing less. Kevin Dunn's still there. He still has his finger on the button. I'm not expecting any meaningful changes either. Look, if anything, this would have been the week for Triple H to come out and do a rah-rah speech and be like, this is a new era, right? Let's fucking go. And book things that make it feel like it's a new era. Don't get me wrong. Matches had stakes. The triple threats were all heading towards a title shot at the U.S. Championship against Bobby Lashley. I can dig that. That's cool. But like I said, I didn't feel like the show was a significant change enough for it to be like, here we are. This is the new era of Triple H. And quite honestly, I don't see the incentive for Triple H to do any sweeping changes. And I think I talked about this last week, but I think it bears repeating. WWE, regardless of what you feel about the product, they have a winning formula right now with their business partners. They're making billions of dollars just by licensing their content in a certain way, in a certain formula that is clearly appealing to their business partners. The NBC Universal, Fox. They're clearly happy to shell out all this cash for them. If Triple H were to arrive and be like, no, look, we're changing all the color schemes, we're moving this around, we're changing it, and now we're only focusing on these people as opposed to these people, like, business partners would have a shit fit. It's like, what are you doing changing all of this? And you know what? They're not going to make any changes before they renegotiate the deals. The deals are due, what, in 2024, right? Was a 4-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. So they're starting renegotiating next year. That's when they're starting to talk about it. They're not going to start implementing sweeping, crazy-ass changes now. Not now. They want to hang on to the leverage that they have. And even Triple H this week, he was going around and he was doing a bit of media, right? He was going around talking to people, and I got some, he had some very choice sound bites, I found. First of all, at the NXT tryouts, I think he was talking to Wrestling Inc. And he said, this is what he said here. And I think this is very important that we lean into to his comments here to understand, to sort of temper our expectations here. Quote, I do not dream for 1 second that I can fill those shoes by myself. Speaking about Vince McMahon, replacing Vince, that he cannot fill those shoes. He continues, it's going to take a lot of us. It's going to take a team. It's going to take everybody here to fill those shoes and continue on, but we will. Now, this is an important quote because for him right here, he's saying, he's establishing the fact that he's not going to work like Vince. It's not going to be like when Vince was around. I'm not going to do everything myself. I'm going to have a team. So that's right there. I'll give him this much where he's like, I'm changing the way we're going to do things. And that's a positive. But listen to this quote here. Same interview. The intent is to continue the legacy of what has been going on, what made me fall in love with this business that Vince McMahon created, and to take it to new levels. To continue the legacy, move on, to bring it to new levels. He's not talking about changing, he's talking about continuing the legacy. He's not going to reinvent the wheel here. We're not going to we're not turning Monday Night Raw into NXT Black and Gold circa 2019, 2018, 2019. We're not. Let's continue with his quote here. The only way we're going to take WWE beyond where it is now is with a team. That's with Stephanie McMahon, of course. That's with Nick Khan. That's with myself. That's with Kevin Dunn. That's with everybody that is here. That is with all this talent. We have the greatest, hardest working talent in the world, and I have no doubt in my mind that this team can do it. Not an inkling of doubt. This, to me, is very clear that they have no intentions of making huge changes. Just Vince leaving is big of a change enough. And that's all they need to do right now. These sound bites continue. He was on Logan Paul's podcast. If you have any doubt as to whether or not he really wants to bring some significant change, I'll say this about Vince. This is his quote from the Logan Paul show. I'll say this about Vince. Massive shoes that I couldn't even dream of beginning to think I could fill. The gap there in this moment is massive, but the opportunity to take it in a direction that it's never gone before is massive. I'm thrilled for that opportunity. We have an unbelievable team. It's never going to be one person. One person can't begin to fill the shoes. It's going to take an entire team of people to jump in those shoes, because without him, there's none of this. The vision to take this tiny little thing happening in bars to this big global sensation like nothing else. WrestleMania is one of the most valuable sports franchises on the planet. We have to stop with all of this. We have to stop with this. This type of stuff is where you need to pull back on your Triple H expectations. That he's going to do what's best for the business. No, he's going to do exactly what Vince did. He's going to do the best for WWE. And there's a difference here. And this is what we're talking about. This is the code here in this message here. Because it blows my mind that a guy like Triple H, trained by Killer Kowalski, is like, you know what? Wrestling before Vince was a tiny little thing happening in bars. He knows better. He absolutely knows better than this. He knows that wrestling was around way before Vince came in. Vince inherited from his father, who was selling out Madison Square Garden on a weekly basis. What are we even talking about? And I get upset these days, and I don't know why I keep getting upset, but I do know why I keep getting upset, because these things are lies. These things are lies. WWE did not create wrestling. WWE did not bring it national. WWE did not bring it international. WWE did that for itself. WWE made decisions to make itself bigger, better. But WWE made wrestling worse and put it in a worse place than it has ever been. And there is history, facts, documentation, real tangible, observable things that will support any counter argument to this to say that Vince made wrestling great. No, Vince made WWE great. Wrestling was fine before Vince. It was absolutely fine. The Mid-South Coliseum was drawing in the 70s, ladies and gentlemen, was drawing on average between 6,000 to 8,000 people a week. A week. Sometimes up to 12,000 people. And this is just in one region of the United States. And this was happening all throughout the territories. You'd have wrestling on every weekend. You'd have local wrestling on your television shows. People were tuning in droves. People were going by the thousands to go sit in the Cow Palace, to go sit at the Madison Square Garden, Boston Garden. In 1983, Jim Crockett Promotions put on Starrcade, the first super major card, major super event. In 1983, headlined by Ric Flair winning the NWA Heavyweight Championship against Harley Race. 14,000 plus people saw that show. WWE did not make wrestling global. They existed all over the place. CMLL is the oldest wrestling promotion on the planet. It's been around for decades. It's been wrestling in Mexico, in France, in Britain, in Japan. What are you talking about? WWE made it global, and it was already global. And if you want to get nitpicky, all Japan was an NWA territory. I implore anyone and everyone. And look, here's the thing, is that I as much as it infuriates me, and people were reaching out to me this week, and they were like, "Oh, Warren, a history rant is for the show, right?" And I'm like, yeah, history rant. Yeah, history rant. We need a history rant. But I can't do it. Because there's no point. Because I assume that if you are listening to this podcast, if you are watching right now on YouTube, however you're consuming this, I am assuming that you have the foresight to understand that not everything begins and ends with the World Wrestling Federation / entertainment, right? I would assume so. You will understand that Ric Flair was a household name before he ever came to WWE. It was a territory thing. It was absolutely a territory thing. Do you think that people in Georgia heard about Hulk Hogan up in the AWA? No, they didn't. Unless you read the magazines. The aftermags. That's not how it worked. So anyone who wants to learn, who wants to understand the history of pro wrestling and how WWE objectively made it worse and made less people watch wrestling overall, you can go out there. There's information, and I will incessantly recommend starting by reading the book Death of the Territories by Tim Hornbaker. And I've been echoing this one on Twitter and the Discord and now again today, and I don't know Tim Hornbaker. I don't owe Tim Hornbaker anything. I'm not getting a cut from the sale of his book. This is a book I read a few years ago and I've reread since, and you know what? I'm going to dive into it again because I need this information refreshed in my mind if you want to understand how the territories worked and how Vince killed them. And it's not an anti-WWE stance. It's nothing like that. These are all facts. There are less people watching pro wrestling today, going to wrestling shows today, than at any time in history. And look, let me pull up something here. Give me a quick second. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to enjoy this. This is from WrestleNomics. I'm a member of the WrestleNomics Patreon, and this is the type of data that we as patrons have access to. And what we're looking at here, this is all compiled and maintained by Brandon Thurston. I cannot recommend enough plunking down some cash for to become a patron of WrestleNomics. For this kind of data right here, we have the historical data viewership of Monday Night Raw since 1993 up until 2020. Well, up until hard to say. Like it's up until 2021 about. You're not going to tell me that this is good, and you're the only game in town. WWE has operated for 20 years, unopposed. They could do whatever the hell they want, and they've been driving people away from their product. You can see it. It reached its highs in the mid-90s, towards the end of the 90s, as it's always been reported, as we all know. But it has been systematically going down for decades. And they're the only game in town. How is there more people watching wrestling today? They can't even fill up Madison Square Garden anymore. Their house show business is in the pits, and we know this. It's been terrible for years. How is there more people watching wrestling today when it is literally the only game in town? Not anymore, but you get my point. They're losing viewers. They've been losing viewers since the mid-aughts. How? It's made wrestling worse. Historically, there is less people watching wrestling on a weekly basis today. Less people going to shows. But I can't change anyone's mind. I can't change the minds of people who've drank the Kool-Aid and who tweet out, "Thank you, Vince," and who don't understand that Vince did everything he could to make WWE the number one company, which is what a businessman should do. But he did it by eliminating his competition, crushing it, and giving any sense of future competition the impossibility to breathe, to actually go ahead and do it. He snuffed out so many attempts. He's reneged on business deals. He's done it extremely underhandedly. This is why I don't understand people who want AEW to fail. It's part of the reason. I don't understand people who are like, I can't wait for AEW to go under. It's like, why? Why in God's name would you not want more wrestling, more opportunities, more people watching it? Why wouldn't you want it to become a thing again? A proper thing. There can't be just one game in town. It's made wrestling worse. And I'm telling you, I don't think Trips is going to make it better. Not on the short term, not on the medium term. Let's have this conversation. Let's have this conversation after WWE renegotiates its TV deals. Let's chat. Let's see what happens then. Because then I think he has the freedom to do whatever he wants. The ink is dry. We're ready to go for another 4 years, whatever, 5 years at that point, whatever they get. Then, if I were him, then I'd feel daring. Then I'd be like, all right, let's fucking go. Let's push some different people. Let's try some shit out. Such fucking nonsense. It bothered. I'm gonna look, final word of advice. If all you know about the history of professional wrestling comes from WWE, I highly suggest, dare I say, implore you to go find any other, to break out of that. Go read other books. Try some stuff out just so that you understand. But I cannot force you to. And I'm done arguing about this with people who have no grasp on it, who all they do is they latch onto the WWE victory lap and will ignore what has actually happened, what is historically observable and has been documented and is there. You can't argue with people like that. And I'm done losing energy trying to argue against it. But do me a favor. If you're not sure about how it went and how it really happened, if you haven't read a book, if you haven't read Death into the Territories by Tim Hornbaker, if you haven't read it, if you haven't read up on the history, don't talk about it, because you will unequivocally end up showing ass. Unequivocally. Let's see. All right. I knew it. I'm running. Talked a lot about a lot of stuff. Look, I'll be doing another. I'll be going Broadway again. Adding some more topics. Because, otherwise, again, I'd be going on a 4-hour stream, which is not what I want to do. So I'm going to go Broadway. We'll be talking about, AEW stuff that's been happening. AEW, Tony Khan really talked about this week that they put out a press release that they're changing some positions, hiring Madison Rayne. I'll talk about that on the extra content part of the show. The video game, how the HBO Max thing is going to influence AEW, how I think it might or might not. We're going to talk a lot about that on the Going Broadway content that I'm going to release for members only tomorrow. How about that? We'll do that, but for members only. So if you want to hear me talk about AEW, if you want to hear me talk about the video game, my thoughts on the HBO, Warner Discovery Plus bullshit that's going on and how I think it might affect AEW, become a member. Members poggers, as Floman just said. Get with the program. And then on top of that, we have a nice little private YouTube members only chat room on the Discord. You want to get in on that? You want to have private access and all that stuff. Okay, before we talk about Dynamite, look, I promise I'm going to try not to spend too much time on this. But I watched Ric Flair's last match. And I will absolutely recommend to anyone who has not watched it to not watch it. It was awful, but not in a wrestling match critique type of awful where you're like, it's like, botched this and what terrible storytelling and the psychology was all over the place. Nothing like that. It was legitimately awful to see this man in the state he was in trying to breathe, trying to move around. Like, this was a hard watch. And there's a moment in the there reaches a moment in the match where Ric Flair cannot stand on his feet anymore. And he tags out and he rolls just out of the ring. He stays on the apron, right? But he can't get back up. He's flat on his back. And he's holding onto the ropes. And at some point, this is towards the end, where Andrade is supposed to tag him back in. And Andrade, being the pro that he is, knows that you can only tag someone in by tagging over the top rope, right? You can't tag someone in between the ropes. So he reaches over and he goes and he taps Ric Flair so that Flair can roll back in, and Andrade helps him back. And it's a disaster. It is an extremely difficult thing to watch. And look, let me get a few things out of the way. I think Jay Lethal did his best. I think Jeff Jarrett did his best as well. And Jeff Jarrett carried a lot of the weight in this match, being a shit heel, doing a lot of stalling. Like, he really, really did his best. Andrade, as well. Like, there's nothing you can take away from these guys here. Ric Flair takes a suplex at some point, right? And at some point, they set him up on the top turnbuckle. Because clearly they wanted to do a superplex spot. But Rick calls the audible and he says, I can't do it. What are we doing? Why am I watching this? I'm trying to find the word that defines what I watched. But when you look at something and you know what you're watching is not right. There's something not right about what's going on right there. And I'll tell you the moment. Look, there's a moment where there's brass knuckles that enter the ring, and Andrade gives he gives the brass knuckles to Rick. And Rick can't put them on. And his hand is shaking like this. And Andrade tries to put them on. And I'm like, this, and honestly, at that point, I was like, he's going to die. I am absolutely going, the worst case scenario is about to happen. I am going to watch a live death in a wrestling ring. And then there's the spot I think that everyone saw, and the spot that made the rounds as a GIF on the internet, and that made me want to watch the match, because I was like, look, I have to see this in context. I have to understand. I'm not like these GIF nerds that will judge just on something happening like a 10, 20 second clip. I got to see the context. I have to watch the match to understand what's going on. He applies, it's the last spot of the match. He applies the figure 4 on Jarrett, and he just falls on his back. And he doesn't move. Like, earlier in the match, he tries a figure 4, and he's doing the figure 4, and he's putting on the pressure. Now he's just flat on his back. The referee's counting because Jeff Jarrett's shoulders are on the mat too. So the ref is counting, counts to 3, and the match is over blissfully. Andrade comes to, check on him, and I swear to God, you can see Ric Flair telling Andrade with his mouth, right? Of course, Warren. But you can make it out, because you don't hear it, but you can make it out, telling Andrade, I passed out. Now, I understand that this was a vanity project, right? This was a vanity project that Rick wanted to do. I've posited, Rick is seeing all his contemporaries getting these opportunities to go out on their terms, right? Like Sting in AEW, right? Having a fantastic, arguably final run, right? Yet Undertaker having his final hurrah in WWE. Like, and Vince, Rick is like, what about me? Who's going to give me my send-off? I'm going to do it myself, and I'm going to wrestle. So I get that this is all a vanity project. Why did and the defense that I hear is that look, this is what Rick wanted. This is what Rick wanted. It's still not a good idea. And it wasn't a good idea from the get-go. And it turns out it was not a good idea, because this match was horrifying to watch. It was a disaster. And people who say, well, this is what Rick wanted, this is his idea, so we're cool. This continues another argument that I make on occasion when I hear people say, hey, you know what? This idea is fine because this was the wrestler's idea and they're okay. Like with Nikki Ash and the superhero gimmick, right? The gimmick is shit. But then we're told, oh, well, it was Nikki's idea. She came up with it. And as if that's like some absolution. It's like, oh, well, then we're fine with it then. No, it's still a shit idea. Just because the wrestler comes up with the idea doesn't make it necessarily good. Doesn't mean that it's instantly a good idea. And I don't know why anyone didn't tell Rick, this is not a good idea, and put their foot down. Then you realize a lot of people got a payday out of this, right? I hope when the show was done, and I looked at and I was processing what I watched, because there's guys like fucking Mick Foley in the audience, and I'm like, I am convinced Mick would never do this. I am 100% convinced that Mick would never do this. Mick is broken. He's battered. But I'm looking at it and I'm processing what I'm watching. And I'm thinking about it. And the first thing, no, wrong, lie, Warren. The third, fourth, maybe fifth thing that came to mind after my, abject confusion as to what I saw, who was this for? Who was this match for? And I'm talking on a purely marketing audience question. Who was this for? Who needed to watch Ric Flair put himself through this and make it the most uncomfortable match to watch that I have seen in years, easily years, even in these matches where the violence is staged and the death matches where I know they're willing participants and we know what's going on kind of thing. Why did Rick do this? Who is this for? I hope that the adfreeshows.com fans got what they wanted out of this. Because I'm a wrestling fan as well. Ric Flair, one of the all-time greats. You cannot have an argument about the greatest of all time without talking about Ric Flair. That's impossible. The man who's given his life to the business. He's sacrificed relationships with friends, with family, with his own kids to be where he is because of his love of pro wrestling and the fans. And I appreciate that. But if I'm going to celebrate Ric Flair, if I want to remember Ric Flair, I'm going to go back and watch the matches that made him. I was talking about StarCast 83, the first StarCast. Then he main evented and won the championship off of Harley Race. I'll go watch that. I'll go watch him fight Butch Reed in the 80s. I'll watch the series with Steamboat. I'll watch his fucking retirement match with Shawn Michaels. That's how I want to remember people. That's how I want to remember wrestlers. Not this. Not a sad man doing sad things. And I'm not even trying to be insulting. This is what it was. It was a sad moment. There was nothing prideful about it. It was extremely hard to watch. And I don't know who it was for. I don't know who was the audience for this. We have to stop with this weird nostalgia that we have regarding the past and these past wrestlers and what they're capable of doing. There are some of the older guard who are doing it smartly or who are adapting or so on. At least, know what they're capable of doing physically. Like Sting. Like, better for worse, Edge, who came back. But they're keeping up with the times. Ricky Steamboat allegedly was offered to do the match. Steamboat says, I can't do this. I can't. Oh, come on, Ricky. One more night. He says, I can't do it. Most sensible man in the room. Fucking Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Of course, it would have been a brilliant main event. One last time to one of the greatest rivalries, the most vaunted series of matches and feud in the history of professional wrestling. Ricky Steamboat, Ric Flair. But not like this. And no one, why would you want that? Who wanted this? It makes me sad. Doesn't even make me angry. It doesn't make me... I saw something completely terrifying. I never want to see that kind of shit again. I'm going to get to Dynamite in a quick second. Just before a quick G1 Climax 32 update. From when last we spoke on the MrWarrenHayes show, because I do my coverage of the G1, combining 2 nights of G1 action into one review. I'm sure you've been keeping abreast thanks to me. You've been tuning in. I know you have. Why haven't you if you haven't? Since last we spoke, we've had 4 nights of action, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you've been listening to my G1 recaps, you'll know that I think the term that I'm using to define the G1 as we're moving around so far is mid. That's the word, mid. It's just been a very, strong. Look, the work is fine. The work is strong in some circumstances. The matches are, overall well put together, well fought. But there's the emotional part that's missing. There's the fire that's not there. I'm missing the flames that turned the G1 into a bonfire of just excellent pro wrestling. We say multiple times when we start talking about when we start talking about putting your end of year lists together, there's a bit of a not a saying, but an idea that you have to wait till the G1 is done. No use putting your end of year list together until the G1 is done. I'm not seeing anything this year. Nothing. That's making me go match of the year. There's been some great matches. Some really, really great matches. But as far as 7, 8, 9, 10 go, outside of Will Ospreay and David Finlay from night 10, I don't know. There's nothing I can outright say, drop everything, go watch this match. There's not even an evening of the G1 in these 4 past nights where I'm like, sit down and enjoy this wonderful evening of professional wrestling on, let's say, night 8. No, it's not there. It's not there. It's mid. Again, the highlights are the guys who are supposed to be there to eat pins, that are just they're driving forward. They're just making magic out of their presence in the G1. Like, just fantastic. Aaron Henare, Yoshihashi, Dave Finlay. Look, Dave Finlay's another one. Dave Finlay's a guy who's actually at the top of his block right now. He's leading Block D 6 points. He beat Will Ospreay a couple of nights ago on night 10. No one saw, and arguably, Dave Finlay is part of one of the best matches of the tournament so far against Rock Hard Juice Robinson, which is a match I highly recommend. So we're having Dave Finlay being thrown in the mix, being a bit of a revelation, going, holy shit, this guy is beating top guys, and he's looking fantastic in the process. I enjoyed the match between Ospreay and Finlay. I'd recommend it. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it's a good match. And especially in this clear reinvention that they're doing with Dave Finlay right now, that they're putting him up there. I recommend it. But there's nothing that makes me go, like, we've had our terrible night of G1. We've had the one that is the pits, night 3. We're not supposed to talk about it anymore, but I am going to speak of it here to make the point very clear. Night 3 was a terrible night for the G1. It was just a bad night. So we've had our shit night. Where is our great night? Where is it? And we've passed the home stretch. We're heading into the home stretch. We're halfway done at this point. Night 11's in a couple of days. This weekend, right? When is night 11? Night 11 is on August 5th. Tomorrow is when I'm recording this. And I'm like, when is our great night of wrestling? When is the great night of the G1 going to happen? personally, the only one that I see that has the potential is night 15, which is going to be in August 10. Got Dave Finlay versus El Fantasmo. I would not have put this match so highly rated without the contributions of Dave Finlay recently. You also have Tamatonga versus Great O'Khan. If these guys decide to light up, it'll be great. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Evil. Kazuchika Okada versus Tom Lawler. Lawler is due for a great match. Okada is one of the best in the world. And Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Hiroki Goto, which should be a good time. Look, if everyone decides to bring their A game on that night, this is it. Night 15, that is your great night of the G1. Otherwise, I don't see which one it is. Which one is it? Night 14? Yujiro versus Yoshihashi? Sonata versus Chase Owens? Night 13? Tom Lawler versus Bad Luck Fale? Is that going to carry us? Come on now. Anyway, I'm still continuing my coverage. Subscribe to the channel if you want to make sure that you don't miss out. Keep me in your podcast feeds. I'm sticking with it, man, because I love the G1 and I love tournament wrestling. I just wish it was more exciting. There's nothing wrong, technically speaking. I've got thoughts. I'm gonna start. I'll share them. I'll share more of them on the recaps. They're available for everyone. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite now. AEW Dynamite. Let's wrap this up because Dynamite from the Schottenstein. Is it a Hammerstein or Hammerstein type of situation here with the Schottenstein Center, Columbus, Ohio? I saw all the. Are we still doing Bobby Fish's old jokes? Are we still doing that? I thought we were done. They're a little passé, aren't they? Or is it me? Is it because, do I not like the Bobby Fish's old jokes because I myself am pushing 50 and I stare into the abyss when these jokes happen and I'm like, am I doing some projection? This show started off with Jay Lethal defeating Orange Cassidy. It was a pretty fun match, despite Jay Lethal being in it, especially with the babyface comeback spot from Orange Cassidy, which always works, right? Because Orange is a fantastic babyface, right? People love him, and he's still super over. And Jane is a good fit. I was on one hand, I was like, good that we're going back to Jane. Then he comes out with Jane, and I'm like, you know what? I miss the Pixies, but it's starting to grow back on me. I'm like, all right, let's go. The back and forth to kick this match off clearly puts Orange Cassidy in charge. He drop kicks Lethal as Lethal tries the lethal injection. That's a lot of lethal in one short sentence. Hits a tope suicida, does Orange Cassidy as well. Then Lethal scurries up the ramp. He's afraid, he's fearing for his life, which brings out Satnam Singh, who walks out to protect Jay Lethal from Orange Cassidy. But from the other tunnel, out walks Trenchcoat Man, making his AEW debut. I didn't see that one coming. And we haven't seen Trenchcoat Man in years, yet there he was, just shocking to me to stand up to Satnam Singh and stick up for Orange Cassidy. But this goes back into the ring. And Lethal does a dragon screw leg whip and then works the knee for a good portion of the match, including a dragon screw off the top rope. Locks in a figure four. A suplex attempt by Lethal is reversed into the Stun Dog Millionaire. Orange Cassidy goes for a satellite DDT, but it's countered into a backbreaker. Cassidy tries the orange punch, but he can't run really well because his knee has been torn to shreds. So it gives out on him. Lethal gets back in control, goes for a power bomb, but it's reversed into a beach break. Lethal goes for the figure four again, gets rolled up, but Lethal kicks out of that. Orange punch attempt again, it's failed. There's a kick to the knee by Lethal that follows, and then he hits the lethal injection for the win. See what you see when people talk about Orange Cassidy being a comedy wrestler, he does the spots, he does the little kicks and whatnot. And the thing with Trench Coat Man, but you see, like it doesn't permeate the entire match. Like they get the haha spot in, and then after that it becomes all business. This has been a structure of Orange Cassidy matches I've noticed over the past few, and I appreciate that because it does help destigmatize to a certain degree Orange Cassidy, who people for some bizarre reason only perceive him as a comedy wrestler. But I would argue that the people who say Orange Cassidy is just a comedy wrestler don't watch Orange Cassidy matches. So I like the structure of his matches. I enjoy them. I think they're pretty good. Yeah, it's fun stuff is what I'm trying to say. After the match, Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh, who come rushing down to the ring. Dutt cuts a promo about Lethal, how hard Lethal kicked Orange's ass, and they talk about Wardlow. Lethal says he's going to break Orange Cassidy's leg. The best friends come out for the save, and Wardlow as well. The heels flee. They could be fleas, like really, really big, like parasites. Sanjay Dutt is still on the microphone, and he gets Wardlow to challenge Jay Lethal, or he gets Jay Lethal to get a shot at the TNT title at Battle of the Belts 3, which is happening this Saturday. There you go. Segment concluded. Now, here's a little something interesting. We lead into not another match, which is usually what we do on Dynamite, right? We go opening match, then another match, but no, we go into a segment inside the ring where the Undisputed Elite are there. Adam Cole has the microphone, and he's surrounded by his buds, the Young Bucks, Kyle O'Reilly, and Robert Fish. He says it feels good to be back in this ring, right? Because he's been out with an injury, but he has some unfortunate news for us. He's not medically cleared just yet to come back, and that the fact that he's been sidelined and makes some he has time to think about things, put things in perspective, because as he's a great leader, and as a great leader, you can't just celebrate your successes. You have to look at what needs to be fixed. And at this point, if you have never seen an Adam Cole is about to turn on you promo, if you've never seen this before, everything was, I was like, oh, there we go. He's turning on the Bucks. It's done. Because he's looking down at the ring. He's talking about, like, you got to see what you can fix. And I'm like, oh, there we go. And then I look at the positioning of the guys, right? You have, instead of having like the Young Bucks on one side and Fish and O'Reilly on the other, no, the Bucks are immediately next to Adam Cole, and the two others are on the outside. And I'm like, okay, all right. They're breaking apart. It's just a question of time. And that's pretty much what happened. He gave it some logic. He said, Undisputed Elite are a great faction. There's loyalty, and loyalty is power. And he came to AEW because of the Bucks, and that's loyalty. He's traveled the globe his entire career with Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, and that's loyalty. And that brings him to the Trios tournament that's coming up. And he says he's not medically cleared. Kyle isn't either. But if the Young Bucks don't pick Bobby as their partner, they won't be allowed to do the tournament. And the Bucks are like, the fuck? What? And he says, oh, excuse me. Actually, I misspoke. I want to make this clear. The Bucks won't be physically capable of doing the tournament. And then they turn on the Bucks and they start beating them up. Right up until Hangman Adam Page, with butterflies on his jeans, runs down with a pipe to avoid Matt getting his neck Pillmanized. And runs off the Adam Cole and his subordinates, I guess, and shakes Matt Jackson's hand. The plot thickens. I really hope Kenny Omega pops back before the Trios tournament. I want this wrinkle. This is how, because right now it's like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. But if Kenny Omega shows up, it just changes everything. Good segment. Don't need anything more than that. Adam Cole's an opportunist. That's fine. This is what he is. The segment did exactly what needed to be done, and now we're establishing. Every week now we've been establishing trios. The Undisputed Elite broken apart. We're done. Finito. Don't even have Bullet Club to keep them together anymore. We're done. I like that. Adam Cole, fantastic shit heel. I love him. I love Adam Cole. We get a Mox promo after that for his match later on in the evening. Well, not his match, but pumping up Yuta against Jericho later on. Then we get another segment where earlier in the day, Jungle Boy almost runs over Christian Cage and Tony Schiavone with his car, which is kind of wild. Then we get, holy shit balls, a women's match in the first hour of AEW Dynamite. What? Quarter hour 3 instead of quarter hour 7? The hell's going on? Is Triple H in charge of booking here too? And Thunderstorm, Thunder Rosa and Tony Storm, who unfortunately lost to Dr. Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. And you know what? This was good. And I'm not saying that, hey, I'm surprised. It's like, look, this was good. And they're in the first hour of the show, not relegated to quarter hour 7. And this was a really fun tag team match. You know, Britt Baker early on goes for the lockjaw. Thunder Rosa rolls through into a side suplex. Jamie Hayter eats a basement dropkick by Thunder Rosa. Thunderstorm have a great double team sequence early on in the match as well. Combination moves, like a variant on the Poetry in Motion. I think instead of, the leg lariat, I think it was a drop kick. This is great stuff. It ends with a double suplex on Jamie Hayter. Aubrey Edwards gets distracted, which allows the heels to take control. Jamie Hayter haymakers Thunder Rosa, who becomes your babyface in peril for this match. Suplex by Britt Baker. Jamie Hayter chokes Thunder Rosa out. Rosa fights back with an enziguri and a stunner that allows her to get the hot tag to Tony Storm. Comes in with a diving crossbody, a DDT off the apron onto Britt Baker. Then another diving crossbody onto Jamie Hayter. She lands an Alabama slam on Jamie Hayter as well. But Jamie Hayter eventually double suplexes Thunderstorm, which was really awesome. Thunder Rosa hits a Death Valley driver. Rebel distracts the match at some point as well. Not the match, Tony Storm, if I'm not mistaken, was up on the top rope, which allows Britt Baker to hit an avalanche air raid crash, y'all. Sliding lariat by Hayter, a curb stomp by Britt Baker. Still not able to put the baby faces away. Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker have a series of reversals that ends in an air raid crash again by Britt Baker. Tornado DDT by Toni Storm. Powerbomb by Jamie Hayter. Everyone's down. Crowd is on their feet. They're good for it. We get stereo Germans by the baby faces, which sets up a series of hip attacks by Toni Storm on both Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter until Britt Baker drags Thunder Rosa into a hip attack. Rainmaker by Jamie Hayter. We're going to call it as it is. You know, Excalibur being careful, calling it a short arm clothesline, but hey, brother, it's a Rainmaker. Jamie Hayter, the Rainmaker, gets the win. Fun. Good stuff. I would love to sit here and be gleeful and start saying, finally. But I've done the finally gimmick in regards to AEW and the women's division multiple times. And I've said, this is a good step forward. This is a good step forward. This is a good step forward. But we haven't progressed. What I want to continue to point out here is that despite the fact that the women's division is fairly small, especially in comparison to the men's division, there is a quality of depth of talent in the women's division which is ridiculous. Ridiculous, absurd. Ridiculous and absurd. That when you put these women in these circumstances to let them wrestle and let them go and you give them, how much, cage match clocked this at 12 minutes instead of 7, instead of 6, instead of 8. You give them time to go. Look at what you get. You get something compelling that gets the audience into it because all of these 4 women have fans in the audience. Now, if all you're going to feature is Sky Blue on Dynamite and stuff like that, it's not going to work. Of course not. But you've got these built-in talents. Then, in the meantime, what are we doing with Chris Statlander and Jade and Athena? That was something going on. We could have had both. We could have easily had both. Why couldn't we have had both? I thought this was, again, should I say this is a good step forward? I'm saying, look, this is the bare minimum and this is what should be done. AEW putting talented women in prime spots on their flagship show so that they can do great moments like this, so that they can provide stuff like this. This is cool. This is good. But I'm not going to sit here and pat AEW on the back and say, all right, good job. This is bare minimum shit right here. This is what we've been talking about for weeks at this point. Months. And yet, still only one segment. Still only one thing. And a good thing going with Jade and Athena and Statlander. Where's that at? Why aren't we continuing that? Don't get me wrong. I want more of the women in this position. I want more of the women of the women's division getting showcased in prime spots and letting them do what they do best. Women that the audience care about, that can go, that can string great matches together. This is what I want. And you've got All Out, your biggest pay-per-view of the year coming up. Just a couple of weeks at this point. We're a month out? Let's go. We get an Eddie Kingston promo. By the way, hello, Jason Major. Welcome to the chat. Nice to see you. We get Eddie Kingston interrupting Sammy Guevara's thing about his marriage to, I don't know. And he says he doesn't care. Join the club, Eddie. And he says that he wants a match at the pay-per-view with Sammy. He says, I signed the contract, Sammy. And I think the pay-per-view he's talking about is All Out. There's no other pay-per-view in the meantime. Is this the best we have for Eddie Kingston? Is a match with Sammy Guevara at All Out? Is that it? That's the thing? I love Eddie, and he's gonna turn this into he's gonna turn that match into something fantastic. But with everything that guy's been doing for that company and the value that he has for that company, All Out, Eddie Kingston versus Sammy Guevara, really? Oh, we got, look, Eddie can make me care. Eddie can hit the ring next week on Dynamite and cut a promo that will make me care about it. And that's that, or he can do it the week before and I'll care about it. That's the magic of Eddie Kingston. He'll get that out there for me. He can sell me a ticket with one promo. He just has to cut it. He hasn't cut it yet. We get a Miro promo. No, wait, before that, we have Taz at commentary just telling us, yeah, Team Taz is dead. Okay. I wish everyone the best of luck, but Team Taz is dead. I'm like, all right. Kind of a shame, but I understand. But it's kind of a shame. I like this. I like Team Taz. I like that it felt, just some guys who want to hang out together and have each other's back. And there wasn't really an aesthetic that unified them. It was just like, let's just go kick some ass kind of thing. I like that. We get Powerhouse Hobbs squashing Ren Jones. Powerhouse Hobbs gets the center entrance. Now, who has the center entrance? Malachi Black, right? He has the center entrance, and fucking Powerhouse Hobbs. There was that one guy who used to have it. I can't remember his name. But he'd come out through an elevator, right? And he'd have the center entrance, and he'd be the only one, right? Then Malachi Black. And now Powerhouse Hobbs has it. I think this is a big deal. Don't get yourself all twisted. Because we're like, oh, they're taking apart Ricky Starks. What about Powerhouse? I think Powerhouse Hobbs is going to be fine. This rules that he got it. Look, he has an Oklahoma Stampede on Ren Jones, and he's done, After Ricky Starks runs out to a big reaction from the crowd. Ricky Starks, man, it's his time. This was well played, well orchestrated, well put together. Just good. But Hobbs spine busters him. So we're establishing the babyface that has to come from under, right? Betrayed by his friend, but his friend is a fucking monster. I loved it. They're gonna do so well with Ricky. I promise you guys. What did I tell you about his ceiling? World Championship. Been saying that for a while now. Now we get the Miro promo where he calls Malachi Black a pagan. All right. Back from commercial, we also get Darby Allin promo where, he challenges Brody King to a coffin match next week at
Quake on the Lake.
I love it. It's such a it's an adorably corny wrestling name. Like we're trying so hard for a rhyme here with, I love it. Christian Cage defeated Matt Hardy I did not need to see this match in the year of our Lord 2022, and it over delivered on what I was expecting, but it was still Matt Hardy just not being able to go anymore outside of doing some very precise moves and stunts. The table spot is still something and whatnot. And look, match came to an end with a kill switch by Christian Cage. Cage is preparing to launch a concerto on Matt Hardy, but Luchasaurus's music hits, but it is not Luchasaurus who arrives. In fact, no one from the tunnels up on top of the stage arrive, but rather Jungle Boy running out of the audience, coming in to swing at our boy Christian Cage, who ducks out because he is a chicken shit. Of note, Jungle Boy is wearing a plain black t-shirt with the words "Christian is a pussy" on it, which I thought was interesting and still has not shown up on pwts.com. And yes, I did see the sign in the audience that said I played this match on No Mercy. That's kind of my feeling right there. It made me laugh. We get Dan Garcia, who's backstage. He's crowing over his win. He's crowing about his win over Bryan Danielson. He's saying he's the greatest technical sports entertainer of all time, and I laughed. I laughed so hard. What a fantastic line. And he calls himself the Dragon Slayer now, so that's pretty dope. We also get a video package of PAC defending the AEW All Atlantic Championship overseas. I don't know why people have a problem with this. When AEW announced the AEW All Atlantic Championship, people were like, there's too many titles on TV. And now the All Atlantic title is clearly not being defended on TV. That it's what I expected it to be. And you can go back and you can listen to me talk about it. When I was like, they're probably going to treat this like the old NWA International title, where it's going to be defended overseas and whatnot. Look at exactly what's happening. And now people are going, the title is not ever on TV. I'm like, this isn't what. First of all, fucking get your story, right? Stick to your story. I don't have a problem with it being defended in other territories. This is promo for AEW. This is AEW reaching out to other promotions, establishing working relationships with them. Look, we'll feature a bit of your talent on Dark. We'll have promo packages on TV so that people know, oh, look, Rev Pro. Oh, look, OTT. Whatever, PAC is going to make his way to Japan. He's going to go defend this in Dragon Gate. What the fuck are you talking about? It's like, this is where we're going with this. Don't be dense. And I'm like, you know what? You get a little package and you're like, okay, cool. You're seeing this being defended overseas and you're like, all right, this is pretty dope. PAC is doing the work and he's a fighting champion and whatnot. It's fine. It doesn't have to be any more than this. It doesn't have to be any more than this for now. And eventually it's going to come full circle. It's going to come back. They used to do these types of updates, back in the day. It was like, oh, so-and-so defended the WCW Tag Team Champions in Osaka. I'm just, against the great Sasuke and I don't know, whoever. It wouldn't even have video footage of it. It'd just be like Tony Schiavone just telling us like, oh, well, this happened. NWO Japan did this. It's like, oh, okay. And you'd be like, oh, there's stuff happening overseas. And the thing here is that if you were really interested, you just seek out the footage and watch it, you dumb. Ethan Page is in the ring. And he asks, why isn't he on TV every week? Why doesn't he have an action figure? Why isn't he on the production trucks? He deserves better. But what he doesn't know is that there's Stokely Hathaway that's right next to him. He turns around and is like, Stoke! and he whispers something in his ear. And he hands him a card. Stoke did the same thing to Lee Moriarty. He's recruiting guys, gals, non-binary pals. Managers are back. Stokely Hathaway has brought managers back. I love this shit. I love this. Bring back a stable of people just because one manager has decided to hire them. The Heenan family. Fucking Mr. Fuji. That was the thing. Didn't have like these weird aesthetics or stories, to sort of bring everyone together. It's like, no, you have one manager. That's our common thread here. I love this so much. I'm really excited to see how far this is going to go. Now, a lot of people have been going, oh, thank God we got rid of Dan Lambert, right? I'm still someone who enjoyed Dan Lambert. I like Dan Lambert. I think he brought a very convincing energy. I enjoyed his presence as the AEW hater surrogate. I think it worked. He was perfect. He was a perfect old school shit heel. Wrestling should always be, he was this back in the day, and he was great. Because he knew his shit. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, thank God Dan Lambert is gone. However, I will say this. When they started the whole America Top Team feud back with the Inner Circle when they were baby faces, right? When they all started doing that feud I was like, Dan Lambert's role here should be to get Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky over. And then they started bringing in all the MMA fighters, and Dan Lambert started getting himself over. And then they did Dan Lambert in a ring, have him fight in the ring. And I was like, the AEW guys are not going to get over in this. And they did not. Arguably, they did not. The Dan Lambert stuff was entertaining. It was good, but it worked for Dan Lambert. And it did not help Scorpio Sky, and it did not help Ethan Page either. And I think Tony Khan realized it. And it's not just Dan's fault. I think there was some very strange booking decisions throughout, because I would still like to see what would have happened if Scorpio Sky, Dan Lambert, and Ethan Page stayed baby faces after the Sammy Guevara stuff. Because no one wanted Sammy Guevara have his ass beaten more than the audience. And they were 100% behind Scorpio Sky. Then they decided to make him heel again. And I don't know why. And I think that was the nail in that booking coffin right there. The final nail. But ultimately, look, I enjoyed him, but I don't think, managers are supposed to get guys over and gals. It didn't work here. So let's see what happens with Stoke. Stoke gets it. I'm really excited for this. We have Angelo Parker, Matt Menard, and Anna Jay being interviewed backstage, and Anna Jay now wants to assault everyone, wants to choke them out. She choked out a production crew guy. I think I know what they're doing with this. I think I know where they want to go with it. Anna Jay needs the acting chops to pull it off, though. She needs and from what I've seen so far, I'm not quite sure. And we had the dumpster tag match, the dumpster diver, the dumpster match, the dumpster tag team match, where the Acclaim defeated the Gun Club. Hope you enjoyed your sports entertainment for the evening. This is, I've told you guys, I'm consistent in this. You know, none of the Acclaimed and Ass Boys stuff has ever connected with me. And I think it's too sports entertaining. And it ends in the most sports entertaining way possible, where we have to stuff people into dumpsters because we've been talking about trash. And so I'm like, oh, come on. Like, I was not entertained by this. I enjoyed the final spots with the mic drop off of the tunnel through the table. I think this was the blow off. Are we done? And I mean, look, the homage that the Acclaimed paid to the New Age Outlaws by throwing the Cactus Jack Chainsaw Charlie dumpster off of the stage, a bit of a weird thing to throw back to, you know, but fucking scary. It's a hell of a spot. Stunned. Scary as hell. Like, you know, when it's when the dumpster was tipping over, you know, they used some zip ties to make sure that everything was in place, but the zip ties broke, and there were some boxes in there that sort of that. Look, I thought one of the bodies was being flung out of the dumpster, but it was the boxes, and I got like I got a legit scare. Look, I'm done with this. I'm good. I want to see Anthony Bowens wrestle. I enjoy watching Anthony Bowens wrestle. Let him wrestle. Let the Acclaim continue their New Age Outlaws gimmick, because that's what they are right now. That's exactly what they are. Max Caster is Road Dogg. Anthony Bowens is Billy Gunn. That's what it is. And I'm convinced, still convinced right now, Austin Gunn is just waiting for his contract to be out, and he's heading to the Fed. He's got everything the Fed wants. We get footage of Mance Warner winning the Bunkhouse Battle Royal at Ric Flair's last match. And we learned that because of that, he's going to be fighting Jon Moxley on Rampage. A live Rampage on top of that. Plus, Madison Rayne is also going to debut on that Rampage. She's going to be in charge of, she's going to be help coach the women. I'm going to talk about that on the extra content that I'm going to do for members. I'm going to talk more about that and give my thoughts on all these new hires and promotions from within that they're doing in AEW. You have to become a member. So become a member if you want to have access to those thoughts. And we get a video package for Claudio Castagnoli, who is going to be defending the championship, the Ring of Honor World Championship against Konosuke Takashita on Battle of the Belts 3. And I want to point something out to you all. According to WrestleTix, I was checking this out. The arena, and I forget the arena that they're running this. On July 12th, for Battle of the Belts 3, they had distributed, 3,875 tickets out of a So they had distributed 3,875 tickets out of a capacity of 7,236 spots for the show. That was on July 12th. They announced Claudio versus Takeshita, look at what happens. 5,900 in tickets distributed. Only 1,326 remain. That's what you call a draw. That's what you call a drawing match right there. I'll be very excited to see the final numbers. Of course, these are not all sales. These, we're talking distributed, right? But we went just within a span of a couple of weeks, and just on the strength of an announcement of a match, one match, bumped 2,000 tickets, moved 2,000 more tickets. It's awesome stuff. And our main event was the AEW Interim Heavyweight Title #1 contendership match. Chris Jericho defeated Wheeler Yuta. Claudio comes out after Yuta because Jericho comes out with 2.0. Yuta flicks Jericho's nose because it was broken. And he's on the floor. He tosses him into the rails. 2.0 interfere, but Aubrey expels them. It was the referee. So Claudio willfully leaves as well. So I'm like, oh, just wanted to bring Claudio out to make the crowd happy, get the pop, hear his awesome entrance music, and then I'm good. That's all we needed to do. Jericho hits a side suplex on Yuta. He works him over. Yuta fights back with an enziguri, a flying forearm. They both hit a double cross body, knocks them down, of course. Then they go into this great palm strike exchange. And Yuta hits a series of 5 consecutive German suplexes. Last one has a bridge. Jericho kicks out. Yuta holds on to the waist lock, but Jericho reverses that into the walls of Jericho. Fun segment. I wish Jericho was alive like that in every match she's in. Jericho is on the floor. There's a dive by Yuta, and another dive by Yuta, and another dive by Yuta. We get back into the ring. Wheeler Yuta hits an aces high. Jericho goes for the lion salt. Wheeler Yuta lifts his knees up. He goes to the top rope, flies off right into a code breaker by Jericho. Yuta gets Jericho into a submission, which allows Jericho to reach for the bat, which was in a corner of the ring. That distracts referee Audrey, and that lets Chris Jericho hit a low blow on Yuta. Goes for the Judas effect. Yuta ducks. He instead wraps Jericho up into the seatbelt, but Jericho kicks out, clocks in the lion tamer. Wheeler Yuta taps. Jericho maintains his spot to get his shot at Jon Moxley next week at
Quake on the Lake.
Fun little main event. I enjoyed it. I thought this was overall pretty fun episode of Dynamite. Feel like, messed with the formula a little bit, but it worked. I enjoyed it. I think that, the things that I enjoyed least, like the dumpster match, feel like, conclusions. Like we're putting periods on this and we're moving along, and I'm okay with that. Because I think the Acclaimed, maybe it's their act is not what I enjoy the most. Let's put it that way. But I think they're good wrestlers, especially Anthony Bones. I really like Anthony Bones. So I hope they move on. We're doing Quake by the Lake next week. We're probably gonna get some stuff set up for All Out. I feel like it's gonna be a big one. You gotta wonder if Tony Khan is bothered by all this attention WWE is getting. And maybe next week he's like, he's making some calls like, yeah, so Kenny, are you really not ready to go, or just really not ready to go? I was like, hey, how you doing, Phil? Can you walk on your foot, or shit's gonna start brewing. What if MJF shows up? I don't know, I'm just throwing shit out there. I have no information. Look, we're done, okay? we're kaput. That was the weekly wrestling inspection, you know. So, listen, we're done. We're done with this week's edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And look, and if you haven't already, and you're watching this on YouTube right now, leave a like. I'd appreciate it a great deal. If you're watching this on demand and not live, leave a comment below. Tell me about Triple H. Tell me what you think about Triple H, him being in control of everything at this point. Have you already started to see some changes? You know, I left my thoughts earlier. What do you think? What do you think is coming up for AEW at All Out? Let's talk wrestling. I love to talk about wrestling. I promise I'm going to reach back to you. I absolutely promise. But listen, in the meantime, thank you everyone who joined us live here tonight on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening on your favorite podcast application or watching this on demand. I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. Oh, and don't forget, my G1 coverage continues. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you make sure, or the podcast feed to make sure that you don't miss out on that. And become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel here on YouTube. I've got exclusive content for you coming up. All the stuff that I didn't talk about tonight, I'm going to talk about it on the Going Broadway edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I'm going to talk about Tony Khan delegating tasks to other people. AEW's partnering up with THQ Nordic for the Fight Forever video game. And is AEW going to get the axe from Warner Brother Discovery? They're saying they're going to lay off 70% of the workforce. How is it going to affect AEW? Well, become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel and we'll talk more about it. In the meantime, I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. Great weekend on top of that. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.